Multiplying polynomials. You've actually done this already in grade 9. When multiplying two or more monomials, those are things with one term each, you just multiply the numbers. So if you have a 3 and a minus 8, I'm quite certain you could get negative 24. Then you multiply all of your letters. So if I look at my letters, you see that you have a b, x, and a y. You only have b squared, which means b times b. Do you see what the x is? You have an x squared here and an x there. That would give you x cubed in total. And with our y's, we only have the y to the 4, so you still have your y to the 4. This is multiplying monomials. We've got, with that, two more examples. The second one has three things. So sometimes people just do 2 first and then finish off. Sometimes people can do them all at once. So, and when you do 2 first, it doesn't matter which 2 you pick. So if I decide I want to multiply these 2 first, I'd still have negative 5xy squared. And then negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6x squared and a y. And then I could multiply negative 5 times 6 and get negative 30. X times x squared, x cubed, and y squared times y, y cubed. Do some of you feel like you could do the multiplication of the numbers all at once? Negative 5 times negative 3 times negative 2 and get negative 30. And then do all your variables. How many x's will I have? 3 of them multiplied together. How many y's will I have? 3 of them multiplied together. So when you have more than one, you have options. You can like break it down and just do 2 at a time and keep going until you're done. And if you feel comfortable, you can do more at once. So here, if I do these 2 first, I would get 12a squared b. And this one, negative 5ab cubed. Just rewrite it. And now 12 times negative 5, negative 60. I have a squared here, another a there. That'll give me a cubed. Does it make sense from the original one that you have a times a times a, that you would get a cubed in the end? Yes, it should be negative 12. And then that makes this positive 60. Thank you for noticing. And then b times b cubed will give me b to the 4. Next, we're going to look at multiplying a monomial by a polynomial, and you have done this already as well in grade 9. This is what we called it in grade 9, the distributive property. You might remember drawing out the arrows, that monomial gets multiplied by everything inside. So when I do 4x times x squared, I will get 4x cubed. When I do 4x times a minus 2x, minus 8x squared, and 4x times a minus 1, minus 4x. And if the number is at the end, you still can use the distributive property. But now your arrows would go like this. It's still going to get multiplied by everything inside. So our negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. X times x squared, x cubed. When I multiply this second arrow, negative 8 times 2 would give me negative 16. And x times x, x squared. And negative 8 times negative 5 will give me plus 40. And there's just the x. So it's like multiplying monomials, but 3 different times because you're distributing. Hello? And we've already FOILed, so this was reviewed. first ones, outside ones, inside ones, and last ones. So if you do that, you would get x squared, outside minus 2x, inside plus 4x, last one's minus 8, and your outside and inside are like terms, so they can be combined. And after the factoring that you've done, you should be getting really, really good at FOILing, because every time you factor, you should double check your answer to see if you're right. So we multiply and distribute all of the numbers. You know how you distribute a monomial? I just want to, like, math is cool, Tori. I like it a lot. Let's say we think of this as a monomial. It's not, but let's pretend it's just one thing. If it was just one thing, you see that you would just distribute that one thing once. And if I distributed that one thing once, well, here I would get the x plus 4, and it would get multiplied by the x. And then the second one, I would get the minus 2 would also get multiplied by the x plus 4. If I did it that way. And then if I multiply this, because they're monomials, I would get x squared plus 4x. And here, minus 2x minus 8. And look at this. We get the same thing as before, which is kind of cool. And what's kind of cool is this method that I just did. Can you see that it really looks like the grouping factoring method? If I went this way, that is exactly the grouping factoring method backwards. The sub wouldn't have shown you that, so this is bonus material that you get today. Now, when multiplying a binomial times a trinomial, you can do it with arrows as well, okay? But I find that using a chart, just like you can use a chart for multiplying instead of FOIL, the chart works really well when your numbers get bigger. So here we have a trinomial, so I'll split one side into 3 and label x squared, 2x, and minus 3. The other side I'm just going to cut in half, so I have x and 3. And we just have to fill in the areas of each of these boxes. So if this is an x times x squared, its area would be x cubed. This box is x times 2x, its area would be 2x squared. And x times minus 3, its area would be minus 3x. 3 times x squared would be 3x squared. 3 times 2x would be 6x. And 3 times negative 3, negative 9. And now when we put our things together, notice these two are like terms, and notice these two are like terms. So when I go to write my final answer, I have an x cubed. With the x squared, I actually have 5x squared. With the x's, 6x minus 3x, that gives me plus 3x. And then minus 9 at the end. You can also do this. You can also do this with arrows, but the arrows get really busy. The x multiplies by everything. The 3 multiplies by everything. There's 6 arrows that you could do. Those 6 arrows match up with the 6 spaces in the chart. This is the first ones. Then you do an outside with a middle. Whew. I don't know what we call that. You can, like, in the end, it's like you try to make an acronym, it's like, and it's not easy to remember. So we just every single thing multiplies by every other thing. So some people still like the arrows because they don't like writing a chart. But when it gets bigger, sometimes it's nice to just draw the chart. It's easy. You have to fill in all the boxes. Once all the boxes are filled in, it's easy to see like terms, combine your like terms, and write your final answer. And again, if you have more than two things, choose two of them to multiply first. So what I would do here, these look like the easiest two to multiply first. I would do that. I would distribute this to this and this to this, and I would get negative 12x squared minus 8x. That combines those first two, and I still have 5x squared minus 2x plus 3. And because this is a trinomial, I'd probably set up a chart. One of them has three things, 5x squared minus 2x and 3. The other one has two things, negative 12x squared and negative 8x. And I would figure out all of these areas. So this is going to be length times width, negative 60x to the 4. This is going to be 24x cubed and negative 36x squared. Negative 40x cubed, 16x squared, and negative 24x. So to fill in all of those squares, you're just multiplying. It's like a multiplication chart. Now, do I have any like terms? Yes, I do. These are alike. These are alike. So when I go to write the final answer, negative 60x to the 4, this plus this will give me negative 16x cubed, this plus this, negative 20x squared, and minus 24x. Everybody good? Almost? Any questions so far? Oh, this one is super tempting to make a mistake. Okay? This would be a 3-mark question, and there is, not quite done yet? The test tomorrow, no. The test tomorrow just does factoring, greatest common factor, lowest common multiple, prime factorization. But the chart method that's new today is not on your quiz tomorrow.
Wait, question.
FOIL, which we did today as well, we did earlier, so that could be on your quiz.
So it pretty much just goes up to that worksheet.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
if you go up to page number up to page number 26 in our notes, right after factoring with decomposition.
So it's up to page 26 then?
Yeah. Number one mistake is super tempting. This is not true. Do not write this down, but this is what people like to do. They're like, hey, I know how to cube things. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. X times x times x cubed. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Why don't I just cube each thing?
Is 2x together?
That would be super nice, but it does not work. Because if we write out what 2x plus 3 cubed actually means, 2x plus 3 cubed means repeated multiplication of 2x plus 3, 2x plus 3, and 2x plus 3. And when you're multiplying more than one, choose 2 of them. Oh, which 2 should I choose? Can't decide. Doesn't matter which 2 you choose, and multiply them first. If I chose these 2, you see that choosing any 2 would be exactly the same. choosing these and FOIL, I'm going to get 4x squared. Outside is going to be plus 6x, inside plus 6x. Last one's plus 9. And here I would probably go to my chart method. You see that those are like terms. So this first one is going to be a 4x squared. I'm going to put those like terms together as a 12x and a 9. Get 2x plus 3, and then just figure out each of the areas inside the box. So 2x times 4x squared, 8x cubed. 2x times 12x, 24x squared. 2x times 9, 18x. 3 times 4x squared, 12x squared. 3 times 12, 36x. And 3 times 9, 27. Do we have any like terms? Yes, we do. So our final answer will be 8x cubed. So it has the 8x cubed from before, but it also has a 36x squared, a 54x, and it does have the 27 at the end.
Should we be planning to have another quiz next week as well?
Yes, because we're almost done the unit, and so we'll have one more quiz. And look at our note package. How many pages does your note package have? 36 pages. And we're on page 30.
Did you know we're almost halfway through the semester?
That's good, because there's 7 units, and this is unit 3. So we need to be at unit 3.5 at halfway, right?
Yeah, so
Unless we want no time to review for exam.
they should give us a lot of time to review.
Then we need to go faster so we have time at the end. Does that make sense? You want time at the end, we sometimes have to go a little bit faster during. Yes.
I heard the exam was really easy
Oh.
How are you gonna make it
from
harder?
somebody that got a 51 on it.
Super easy.
That's what he told me.
Mm-hmm. So, not wrong.
Do you make
It is easy to get a 51 on the exam form.
That's what I was thinking.
I learned my lesson last year for not studying on a math exam.
Yes, you need
I
to.
did not eat up that math exam last year.
So the number one thing that you can do already to help you study for your math exam is while we're learning things, you need to push yourself to learn them until they make sense to you. If it makes sense to you right now, when you get to the exam, reviewing it and relearning it will not take very much time because you already took the time now to make it make sense. If you just memorize, oh, I'm going to do a chart and I'm going to fill in numbers and that's what I do, if you just remember what you need to do, then the exam will be very hard because you have to relearn everything because you didn't understand it during the year. You just memorized how to do it. Some things are hard to understand. There will be sometimes in math classes that the best you can do in the moment is like, I just have to remember how to do this. I don't know why it's working. It's hard for me. That'll still be hard for you when you get to the exam, but maybe you'll learn some more things along the way that when you review it for the exam, it finally makes sense to you. But the more things we can have make sense to us early, the easier things are. Like, if you know and it makes sense to you that an exponent means repeated multiplication, you won't make that red mistake. Because you'll see the whole thing multiplied out and you'll be like, oh, and I know that I can FOIL these and I get this answer. And then I need to multiply these together, which can be done in the chart method or with a whole bunch of arrows to get the final answer. You like the chart method?
I don't like FOIL, I like chart method.
You can use a chart for both. Just the chart takes up more space. This question, you don't have a ton of space in your notes, so maybe start on the left-hand side of the question. Like, start writing here. Area equals bracket. Base 1 is 5x minus 4, plus base 2 is 3x plus 2, all divided by 2, times the height, which is x plus 2. So like I said, I wrote it pretty big so you could see it, but start on the left-hand side and write it a little bit smaller. In here, in the top of this fraction, we have some like terms. Yes. In the top of this fraction, we have some like terms, so I can combine those together. 5x plus 3x will be 8x, negative 4 plus 2, negative 2, that's divided by 2, and I still have the x plus 2. And inside the fraction, I can divide everything by 2. 8x divided by 2, that'll be 4x. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So if you are working down and you run out of room, you might want to just draw an arrow and keep working on the right-hand side. I'll just keep working down because I have space. Now if I FOIL this out, the first ones give me 4x squared. My last ones give me 8x. My inside ones minus x. My last ones minus 2. So outside ones 8x, inside negative x, last ones negative 2. And you've already done this homework.